last week we spoke about this very prevalent concept in Kabbalah that, yes, there is a world of holiness, and the holiness in this world, the divinity in this world is concealed. That's why the word for world in Hebrew is olam, which means concealment. Our task in this world, each in their own way, is to peel, and I use the word peel purposefully because of what we're about to say, but to peel the outer layers of this world and to reveal the divinity and the holiness within. And we also spoke about the peel, now that which covers this holiness. And we said that there are two concepts in Kabbalah, one that speaks of a peel that is neutral, klipat noga, and the one that speaks about the three impure peels. The peel that is neutral is the world that we can elevate. It's a peel that can be elevated to the side of holiness. So anything that is neutral, to use practical examples, eating, we can eat like animals, and then we are sucked into that peel, and really no revelation takes place there. Or we can eat in order to use the energy of food to do good. And then we've elevated the peel, this neutral world of food, to the side of holiness. And then you have the three klipot that are impure, that we can go into a little bit more today. But those are the peels that can really never be elevated. In the times of Mashiach, they will. Today, they can't be. Things that are completely impure can't be elevated. There is a spark of goodness, we said, even in the impure, in the most impure, just as is the spark of goodness in evil, even in evil people. But sometimes the evil is so dominant, as it is in the three klipot, the three peels that are impure, that it's impossible to really elevate them. That's really on one foot what we covered last time, and I'm happy to dig even more into this today. But let's go to the questions.
So the three, and just before we go to the banana peel, which is how we're remembering the klipot.
Yeah, that's right, because that's the example we use, right?
Right.
Yeah.
The three impure peels, those three, what are they again? Three of them?
So why three, right? That's a question that was asked. So there are three layers that we live in. That's the answer we gave. Remember that there is me versus me versus my immediate family, and friends, my intimate circle, you may call it. And then there's me versus the world. Those three peels can permeate all three circles. But there are other commentaries on the three. Some say that they really relate to a prophecy of Yechezkel that speak about the distraction, the three sources of impurity in this world. I think it's in, I'm not sure what chapter. I think it's chapter 6 at the beginning of Ezekiel, where Ezekiel speaks about the first peel he calls it Se'ara, which means storm. We'll get into this. The second peel is called Anan Gadol, which we see is a great cloud. And then the third peel, again, based on this prophecy that he sees, where he sees a esh mitlakachat, soaring fire, or a very, a very, a fire that takes over. It's a raging fire, maybe. That's the best word. A raging fire. And again, Kabbalah speaks about this vision as Yechezkel seeing the three klipot atmeot that again cover the three impure peels that cover the holiness of this world. Now, these three peels, if we want to personalize them, really relate to three things that really make our lives very difficult in this world, our lives that hinder this holiness from really unleashing itself. So the first one we said is the storm. Those are, I would say, the addictions a person may have, that which really storms your life, takes over you. Anything that has a strong force that comes, like an addiction, that comes and takes over you, is an impure peel. That's the first of the three. The second one, again, we can go deeper into this too. The second one is the great cloud. Anything that comes to blur your vision. Usually, kids don't have that peel because kids see right through any cloud. For them, good is good and the evil is an evil. They know the difference between the truth and a lie. In fact, when parents lie, they can detect that immediately. But that's any person that comes and tells you, oh, it's not so. Don't worry, it's not so bad. Or it's not so good. Or you think it's that, it's not so. The third, the klipa, therefore, can be maybe represented by those two words. Not so. Not so. Anyone comes to, it's true or not so true. It's good, it's not so good. It's evil, it's not so evil. By the way, that is exactly what the snake did when he caused the first sin to happen, when he caused Adam and Eve to eat from the tree. They said, but we're going to die. He said, not so, not so. You're not really going to die. But it's prohibited, but not so prohibited. That's that Anan Gadol. And then the third klipa is Esh Mitlakachat. That's a raging fire. I think ego is a raging fire. Arrogance. You can say that anger is a raging fire. Anything in which you have zero, a type of emotion that is destructive and that is all pervasive, that you really have no ability to stop. Well, that maybe because you don't want to. Maybe you do have the ability, but you don't want to. No willingness or ability to stop it. It just takes over you. And usually that's the ego. That's the third type of klipa. So some say the three klipot, again, refer not just to the three circles, but those three things that Yechezkel saw in his vision. Some say that the three klipot also refer to the three realms in which we live in, which are different than the circles, but the Tanya speaks about this. And that is that the world of thought, machshava, dibur, and maaseh, the world of speech, and the world of action. And the three klipot try and take over those three worlds. The world of thought, we each live up here. Sometimes all we do is live up here. But then there's the world of speech. That's the world that really begins to interact with the outside world, doesn't stay. Then you have the world of action, which really makes a difference. Good actions change the world, and God forbid, bad actions can also change the world. So they refer to those three worlds.
And what's the emanation?
No, those are the four Kabbalistic worlds where that's right, where God functions. The worlds that we just spoke about are the human worlds, the thought, speech, and action. Yeah. No, that's right. No, good point.
To that point, may I ask a question?
Yes.
So the layers of our inner life, right? So thought, speech, and action.
Mm-hmm.
And then if we look at the four Asiya, Yetzirah, Biriya, and Atzilut,
yeah.
Parts of ourselves live in different, in addition. So I understand why you're confused, because I am too.
Right. Right.
Your physical body, our physical body is in Asiya, in the world of action. Our emotions and imagination, say, are in Yetzirah, Ritzo. Our intellect is in Biriya.
Yeah, soul.
Our
Yeah.
soul is Atzilut. So
No.
is that true, or is
No,
that
yes, it's true with a little edit. Not so. That's right. So it's true that thought, speech, and action, the three spheres I would use, let's not use the word world, not to confuse it with the four worlds, like you were saying. The three spheres we live in are thought, speech, and action. Now, it's true that the spheres altogether, together with the human being himself, and it's the human being in his full form lives not just when we speak of the four worlds. Human beings don't just live in the world of action. We should be in this world, but we should remember that we're not of this world, as Rabbi Steinsaltz would often say. So we are in this world, but we're not of this world, and therefore we also live in other worlds, like you were just saying. Olama Yetzirah means creativity. So our creative force comes from that world, but the only edit I would make is that our innermost self comes from the world of creation, not the world of emanation. Unless you're super righteous, then you come from the world of emanation. Most souls, though, come from the world of creation. The world of emanation is so radiant. It's where God resides without any inhibition, that souls usually can't tolerate that.
Would that be like
unless you're extremely righteous? Like the Lubavitcher Rebbe, I'm sure he came from the world of emanation, and many other righteous. Yeah.
The instincts come in here from the world of creation.
Okay, so now we're going to a different concept, that we also spoke about in the past. Again, they're all interconnected, okay? Because we live in a multidimensional world as much as we live a multidimensional life, right? So there's the world as we see it, but there's the world as God sees it also, and that's usually different. So the instincts that people have, intuition, you may call it, right? Comes from this concept that when God sends our soul down to this world, he doesn't send the full soul down to this world. He sends just, there are 5 levels of the soul. We spoke about worlds, we spoke about spheres. Now we're speaking about levels. The soul has 5 levels. And that's why in some Hasidic shuls you may see it. Maybe we should do this here. When the Chazan, the cantor, goes and leads the prayers, he lights a 5-branch menorah before. Sometimes it's not even a menorah, it's 5 candles. So that we pray with the entirety of our soul. The entirety of our soul is 5 levels. Now, 3 of those levels, the 3 lower ones, are the ones that are that we function with. We function when in this world, whether physically, whether emotionally, whether intellectually. Those are the levels that help us really be in this world. But there are 2 levels of the soul that really do not descend. They stay up in the upper worlds from where we came from, probably in the world of creation, Olam HaBriya, because that's where the souls come from. Those 2 levels remain there. And those 2 levels send signals to the lower soul, to the 3 levels of the soul down here. Those signals are the intuition, are the instincts. Now you have to be completely synchronized and aligned to be able to receive. Some people are so deviated that they may feel like they have gut feelings, but it's not real. People who are aligned have real flow from those 2 levels that remain up there. This is why the Talmud says, Afal pi de lo chazeh, mazlayu chazeh. It's one of my favorite sentences in the Talmud, that even though a person can't see, his mazel sees. Mazel refers to those 2 levels that send signals. Those 2 levels have the whole view of this world, of time, of physical space, spiritual space. They see the whole picture. When they see the whole picture, they can see what's good for you and what's not good for you. When it's not good for you, they'll send signals. When it's good for you, they'll send signals. So that comes from the 2 levels. Just before I answer your question, Penina, but we call that mazel. And that's why, we've spoken about this, but that's why when you say mazel tov, or when you receive a mazel tov during any type of happy occasions you may have, people are not just saying you should have good luck. Mazel is translated as luck. People are saying you should have such good mazel that it flows, that you should have good dripping. We said that the word
in Hebrew
mazal comes from the word nozel,
which
like means
that drips.
That's right, good dripping. That flow from the upper world, from those 2 levels, should be a good one, should be a fluid one, without any interruption. Yeah. Okay, good. We're covering a lot. 4 worlds, 3 spheres, 5 levels. Well, yes, Penina.
Spirituality, the higher self, the self in a higher frequency.
Right. Yes. So it's interesting. Yes, I would say yes, depending on what context, because people use that term loosely, the term of higher self. But yes, it usually refers to the higher self. I know in Eastern religions, they call it the middle eye, maybe. That's interesting that they call it the middle eye, because we do believe, Afal pi de lo chazeh, mazlau chazeh. Chazeh means to see. We do believe that the mazel sees. So maybe that's why they took it from us. That's why they use the word eye, an eye that sees. But yeah, I would say that that's probably what they refer to. Yeah. Yes, Natalie.
I just didn't write fast enough. The 3 bottom were physical, intellectual, and
The 3 spheres that we live in,
yeah.
no, thought, speech, and action.
Oh, wait, I got those, but then I have 5.
The 3 levels of the soul,
yeah.
with which we function in this world. So the actual names, I'll give you the names of the 5 levels. The 3 that are in this world are nefesh, ruach, and neshama. If you study Kabbalah, you'll see them often written with their acronyms, Naran, Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama. Nefesh means, I would say, your being. Ruach means your spirit. And Neshama means your soul. The upper levels are called Chaya, which means life. The source of your life is from that level. And Yechida, which means the unique one. And very, very rarely do these two levels actually come down to this world and appear. When they do, then you have a transformation. Rabbi Steinsaltz speaks about this in this book. Then there's a transformation. You're not the same person you were before, and you've completely shifted. I tell the story, and I shared this in the past, but just to give an example, I'll tell a personal story. My father tells the story quite often, but my grandfather was a soldier in the French army. He came from Algeria. Because he was Jewish, by the way, he was kicked out by the French general of the time during the Holocaust. The French general who collaborated with the Nazis. His name was General Pétain. He suffered a lot, but because of that, he didn't really give any much Jewish education to his children. When it was time for my father to become bar mitzvah, so my grandfather took him to a synagogue far away from the little village that they lived in France. They were the only Jewish family in that village, called La Flèche. So he took him to the closest city where there was a synagogue, a place called Tours, not too far away from Paris. And he went to the synagogue of that city, of Tours, and he told the rabbi, look, I know I'm not so connected, but I want my son to be bar mitzvahed, and you're the closest synagogue to our little village. So can you have him please be bar mitzvahed here in a few months? The rabbi said, well, not everyone can become bar mitzvah here. In America, they would tell you have to be a member first. I don't know which is worse, but in France, the rabbi says, well, you first have to know. We have to know that you have enough knowledge to be a bar mitzvah. So they asked my father a few questions. One of the questions was, what are the 3 festivals in the Jewish calendar? 3 festivals of biblical festivals are Passover, Shavuot, and Sukkot. My father didn't know of Shavuot, never celebrated it. Sukkot, barely. So he said Passover, Rosh Hashanah, and Yom Kippur. Those were the festivals they celebrated at home. The rabbi then told my grandfather, I'm sorry, he can't be bar mitzvah here. His knowledge is not good enough. And my grandfather, according to what my father says, he just started sobbing. And that sob, of course, created a transformation in the rabbi. They let my father become bar mitzvah there. But it created a deep transformation in my grandfather, that I'm named after, by the way, and in my father. My father says that this was the moment that was the catalyst for his return to his roots. My father's you've seen him, he's a devoted Jew because of that moment. But he believes, now that he knows about the Yechida Shebanefesh, that there's no doubt that that moment was the revelation of the highest level of the soul, the Yechida, in my grandfather at that moment. And when that happens, there's a complete shift. There's a complete transformation. But not always do those 2 levels reveal themselves. Sometimes they reveal themselves once. Sometimes they don't reveal themselves at all. But that's how powerful those levels are. And no matter what, though, they do serve as a muzzle that drips, that sends signals.
Surrender. Your grandfather surrendering something, and it sounds like there was a dissolution of something.
Yeah, I mean, I think it includes many, many different aspects. Surrender is maybe one of them. I would see the concept of surrendering maybe in the way that he's surrendering his plan, saying, you know what, I have a plan, but that's now I'm surrendering it. I think there's other elements to it too. Yeah.
Something touched the rabbi.
No doubt. But again, on a spiritual level, I think it was really the revelation of the Yechida, where.
So It
something.
didn't matter what happened, it was happening.
Yeah. Yes, Sue.
Transformation could be that somebody's very secular and they become much more observant.
Mhm.
Would that be like a transformation?
Sometimes it happens gradually. Sometimes it happens because, again, of a catalyst moment. Really, that's what it is. That is truly transformative. Yeah, I mean, Rabbi Steinsaltz would tell the story. There's many stories of Yechidas revealing themselves. Rabbi Steinsaltz would tell the story of this type of revelation, and every time he would tell it, he would actually cry. But he said that for many years he knew this kibbutznik in Israel, this guy who lived on a kibbutz and didn't want to have anything to do with his heritage. And many years go by, and Rabbi Steinsaltz sees this man. He was completely transformed. He was very devoted, very observant. And he says to him, "What happened? You were like so anti, and now you." And the man told him, "Look, I was learning Tanakh. Tanakh, something that you study in schools in Israel, the Bible." And he came to this prophecy of Isaiah, I believe, in which God says, "Le'maaseh yadecha echsof," that God yearns. God says, "I yearn for the deeds of your hands. I yearn for your deeds." God is yearning for our deeds. And he said that verse just transformed him. When he reached that verse, he says, "God is yearning for me, and I'm not responding." And it created that whole transformation from one verse. So you never know how it comes, you even know why it comes. But when the Yechidah is revealed, it reveals itself in the most transformative way that you are so deeply moved by something that it changes you. So for him, it was just reading that verse, and it's really a very powerful verse if you think about this, that God yearns for our deeds. God wants a relationship, he yearns for a relationship with us. So what, we're going to remain indifferent? But that's another, you see, that's how Rabbi Steinsaltz himself would explain this revelation of the Yechidah by that story. But of course, everyone has, I'm sure, people that they know, maybe themselves, that experience such catalyst moments.
Would dreams be part of the
Sometimes it could be dreams.
prophetic dreams?
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes it could be dreams. Absolutely. There's a great book, a book that Yeshiva study. It's called Bnei Ephraim, but the author is a man named a rabbi who lived some 200 years ago, Rabbi Baruch Schneerson. He had the same family name as the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And he tells the story, which takes us in a different path, but since that's what we're doing today, so I hope you'll forgive me. But he tells the story of how, I believe it was his mother, someone he knew. A story that happened to his mother particularly, but to his parents, that I think it was his uncle. His uncle was a rabbi in Hungary, and I forget his name, Mordechai, I think. Let's call him Rabbi Mordechai. Was a rabbi in Hungary. And, being a rabbi, you had status, you had authority. The problem was one day, the person from which he rented his home came to him and said, "I'm sorry, I'm going to have to kick you out of your home because I want to sell this house." Now, today, it's different. Today, if you kicked out, you go and you rent yourself a different house. Back then, it was very, very difficult, especially no one would rent to Jews. So for the rabbi, it meant that he would have to leave his town, leave his position, and that would mean a lot of detriments for his family. Now, his wife is very sad about this. His wife hears the news. She's very sad. They don't know what they're going to do. Imagine the stress. And all of a sudden, something happens that makes it even worse for his wife. His wife has a knock on the door. She opens up, and there's a lady that's infuriated. He writes this in this book. And this lady says to the Rebbitzin, "I'm so upset at you. I was just in the marketplace, and this woman told me that you are speaking negatively about me, and how dare you, and you should never speak lies like this." And she chastises her, and And of course, everything was a big lie. The Rebbetzin never spoke negatively about anyone, but this person thought that she did, and she was very upset. And now the Rebbetzin goes to her room, and she's sobbing, and she's crying, and she falls asleep. In her dream, speaking of dreams, in her dream, while she's sleeping, her grandfather came to her. This is a catalyst moment too. The grandfather says, "You're making me look like a fool here in the upper world." Why? Because there was a terrible decree that you should die. So I said to myself, how can I change this decree for my granddaughter? Now, in Jewish thought, there are two things that are considered death. That if you experience them, it's as if you're dead. One, if you lose all your money. And two, if someone embarrasses you, he killed your emotions, it killed your inner soul. So I negotiated with God. The grandfather says that you should lose all your money, you should be kicked out of your home, and at the same time that someone should insult you so that you wouldn't die. And God accepted the deal. And now you're crying about it. I look like a fool. So she wakes up and she says, gosh, now I understand everything. A few minutes later, the owner of the house knocks on the door and says, you know what, I'll let you stay. And a few minutes later, this woman says, I apologize. So sorry. These were all lies. I didn't mean to shout at you. But the idea is that, well, many lessons that, and indeed, the Rabbi Schneerson writes that this dream was a catalyst moment also for his aunt, for his uncle. But in many ways, it also teaches us that, first of all, our loved ones take care of us up there. They make deals for us sometimes, so we shouldn't worry. Secondly, teaches us that we never know. Really, we never know. We might experience something that's horrible, but really it's for our good. And third, it means that sometimes, yes, these two levels of the soul will partner with your grandfather and appear, and it will create this catalyst moment for you.
Awesome. Great story.
It's a great story. I was just reading it.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
There was a rabbi, I don't mean to deviate too much, the Rabbi Noach Weinberg. He was the founder of Aish. Have you heard of Aish? He would often tell the story. I don't know how much I like it, but since it's connected, he would tell the story of how there was this elderly man whose slogan was, whenever something bad happened, he would say, it's not so, I don't think it's bad, it's good. But whenever something good would happen, he would say, I don't think it's good, it's bad. And one day this old man's job was that he had a horse. He was a taxi driver of the day. That's how you took people around. And the horse disappeared. And people said, oh, it's terrible, you lost your livelihood. And he said, no, it's not that bad, it's good. Remember, that's the slogan. In the meantime, the horse went back to the forest and he told his friends, hey, you should know I have someone who really takes good care of me. And I think you guys should come with me, and I'm sure he'll take care of you too. The next day, this horse comes back with a bunch of friends. So his friends, the old man's friends, told him, you're a genius, you were right, it's not that bad. It's good. He said, who says it's good? Maybe it's bad. Remember, it's part of the slogan. The next day, this man's son decided to go on a ride on one of those wild horses. He went on a ride, but the wild horse is not used to having someone on his back. So he throws him up in the air, he lands, and he breaks both of his legs. So his friends again came up and said, you're a genius, you're right, it wasn't that good. It's actually bad. He says, who says it's bad? It's good. The next day, representatives from the Red Army, he lived in Russia, came and rounded up all of the 17-year-olds. When they came to this elderly man's son, who was also 17, they said, oh, he has broken legs. We're not going to round him up. They said to him, you're a genius. You're right. It wasn't that bad. That's good. I continue on and on and on with the story. But the point is that you really never know. You really never, ever know. There's a greater picture. We live in a multidimensional world. There are many factors that really influence our lives, whether it's our grandparents that make deals for us, whether it's God who has a whole different plan for us, or whether it's just the two levels of the soul sometimes appearing and creating these transformational moments. And we never know. Anyway, Any other questions? And then otherwise we can continue, or we can dig deeper.
It's not really, not from the.
Please.
But, okay.
So we come back to do a soul correction, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what if there's more than one thing, right?
Yeah.
That
we have to correct.
That we have to correct.
Yeah.
So well, prior to that, do we have a choice in coming back, or does God decide you're coming back, you don't have any say in it? And regardless of how we come back, who sent us back, how do we choose what it is we're going to correct if there's more than one thing, and the circumstance we put ourselves in to make that correction?
Right. So it's a multi-layered question, multi-layered world, multi-layered question. So let's just speak about this idea of we are sent here on specific missions. Every one of us has a separate mission. If we didn't have a mission, we wouldn't be here. So every one of us is sent here to accomplish something. Sometimes that something is, again, multi-layered, and it includes many things. Sometimes that something is just one little deed. Baal Shem Tov, the founder of the Hasidic movement, would say that sometimes some people live 70, 80 years, in his words, just to do a favor to someone else. Just for that favor, that person was sent. Now, you never know when that favor can be. So you have to treat every encounter as if that's the favor for which you were sent to this world. But still, so sometimes just for one thing. Now, before we are sent down, do we have any influence on that decision? So sometimes we do. Sometimes not only us, but also our loved ones, like our grandfather, right? Like that story. Sometimes it's the angels that we create when we do mitzvahs. We say to God, you know what? They did enough in the previous life. They don't have to be sent back. There's a whole negotiation happening by what we call Beit Din Shel Mala, which is the court of the heavens. So sometimes yes, sometimes no. In fact, if we want to go deeper into this, the Talmud speaks about this, and the Zohar also. But in general, there are two types of decrees. This is true for missions. It's true for anything. God forbid, sicknesses. It's true for. There are decrees that are written in stone, and there are decrees that are written in blood. Those are the two images. The decrees that are written in stone are decrees that one can change. Decrees that are written in blood are decrees that one cannot change. Just a very tragic story, but Rabbi Steinsaltz, since we speak about Rabbi Steinsaltz's son, Meni, who was here, Rabbi Meni, when he was about 16 years old, he had a very rare type of leukemia. And the doctor said that he's not going to make it. There's no way he's making it. Now, interestingly enough, he had a classmate at the exact same time by the name of Yossi Katan. Actually, I just saw his brother in Miami 2 weeks ago. We spoke about it. But who had the exact same type of leukemia, and the doctors also told him, you're not going to make it. They were sick at the same time. They shared the same hospital room in Jerusalem. Now, they both sought blessings. And they both sought blessings from the Lubavitcher Rebbe. Rabbi Steinsaltz and his family received blessings of refuah shelema from the Lubavitcher Rebbe. He'll have a speedy recovery, a full recovery, 9 times from the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And indeed, he recovered. And the doctors, of course, being full of ego sometimes, they said, oh, he recovered, but he's never going to have children. Today, Baruch Hashem, he has many children. You know, they saw all sorts of things, but he recovered. The blessing of the Lubavitcher Rebbe came true. Yossi Katan also sent many family members to the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and they never got an answer. They had an uncle go stand in line on a Sunday when the Rebbe would give out dollars, and then he'd be forced to meet him. And when he finally reached the Rebbe, he said, Rebbe, we've been writing to you. We need a blessing for our nephew. The best the Rebbe said was Besorot Tovot, good news. He never said Refuah Shlema. And indeed, Yossi Katan didn't make it. Didn't make it. He died 6 months thereafter. But some decrees, even the righteous can't change. And they're written in blood. Some are written in stone. So that applies also to souls descending here. Sometimes God says, you're going down. That's written in blood. There's nothing you can do. Sometimes you're going down is written in stone. So then we have some influence. To the third part of your question, whether when we are sent down, we are given the infrastructure, so to speak, to fulfill our mission, absolutely. Absolutely. The people that we meet in this world, the places that we go to in this world, the challenges and the opportunities that we have in this world are all part of the design of the infrastructure that God gives us for us to be able to fulfill that mission. And that's why we should treat every person that comes our way as if he's part of our mission. We should treat every place that we go to, even when you go to Hawaii on vacation, maybe that's where your mission is, and that's why you're going there, not just for your vacation, right? But we should treat every place as part of the infrastructure.
So no matter what you do, it's just right, work as hard as you can to get it all right. You can die and God can still say it wasn't good. In his mind, it wasn't good enough, and you're going back. Right?
Potentially, yeah. Potentially.
Well, how do you discern between whether it's written in blood or stone?
I don't think we can know that. I don't think we can discern that. That's a good point. Maybe the righteous can. I don't think we can. The Lubavitcher Rebbe maybe could. People like that could. You know, I have a dear friend, Shmuley Green. Remember him? He was here. His father was a big professor at NASA. And he wanted to make Aliyah in the 70s. Moved to Israel. And he asked the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And the Rebbe responded in a very atypical way, but he said, B'shamayim eino nirali. So my friend told me. He says to this professor, in heaven, it doesn't seem like you have to go to Israel. So I think the righteous can see what is happening in heaven. The Baba Sali, for example, Baba Sali was also really a righteous man. It's funny, on Passover, I was opening a letter of, book of letters by the Lubavitcher Rebbe with my daughter, Nina, and we stumbled upon this letter. But the Baba Sali in the 1950s had moved to Israel from Morocco, and he was overloaded with work. And many people come and ask for blessings, and he wanted to get out. So he wrote to the Lubavitcher Rebbe and said, I want to move to New York and just sit next to you and study Torah in silence. What should I do? And then he continues to write to the Rebbe, and I'm asking you, because in heaven they declare that you are the pillar of this world. So I'm asking you, so like he could see what's happening in heaven, what they declare in heaven. And the Rebbe told him, no, you have to stay, because if God put you in this place, in this position, it's because you are needed, and the Sephardic Jews especially need you there. And so he stayed. They had a very special relationship. But again, you see the righteous saying in heaven, they could see. Can we see? I mean, I can't. Maybe you can. So one of you can.
So I was listening to some talks from Rabbi Jacobson. It was either him or another one, because I was watching two.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them said that when you die, it's not a quick turnaround, right? So it's at least 40 years before you come back. So how do they know that?
So that's a great question. So there's a book, if you want to go into it, it's a very complicated book, but it's called The Gates of Reincarnation, Sha'ar HaGilgulim, by Rabbi Yitzchak Luria, foremost Kabbalist of Tzfat, of some 400 years ago. And in that book, he speaks about how, yes, the soul has to wait 40 years. Yeah. We believe that 40 is a number of a full cycle that represents going over a full cycle. That's why we had 40 years in the desert, for example. That's why the Talmud says that we don't reach true wisdom until we hit the age of 40. That's why we can't fully understand our teacher until we're with them for 40 years, or until we turn 40, depending on what the commentaries say. But 40 is a year of this full cycle. And a soul, in order for it to come back to this world, it not come back to the same world it was in. It's going to come back to a different world, let's wait for the full cycle to end. The reason it needs to come back to a new cycle is, again, because God is not going to make it too difficult for the soul. You failed in the cycle, so let's wait. And we'll put you in a new cycle, new environment, new thing. Let's see if you can do better. The previous cycle obviously was difficult for you because you didn't fulfill your mission. So we'll wait for that full cycle.
Stop.
Maybe, but you won't know. We never know why the soul comes down. That's the whole thing. I mean, the soul certainly carries memories, and sometimes the soul will tell you, "Oh, this person was a part of your previous life." Like you can almost feel it. You know this person, right? Sometimes you meet people and you know them. Maybe that's because they were part and parcel of who you were in a previous life. Sometimes you go to a place and you know the place. Something resonates.
Sounds like it was karma, but it isn't.
Yeah, I think it's more than that, right? There's some karma there, but it's even more than that, I think.
But if you don't need to come back, if you fulfill your mission, then you don't come back?
So if you don't need to come back, you go to Gan Eden, you go to paradise. And that Maimonides writes about paradise that there's no pleasure in this world. The highest of pleasures. Think of the best pleasure there is in this world. I don't know. Music for me it is. Chocolate, there you go. Yeah. That's a close competition. I will read. Dark chocolate though. Dark, not the milk chocolate. Exactly. Now, there's no pleasure in this world that can come even close to the pleasure that there is in the upper worlds, and that the soul basks in those pleasures, again, soulful pleasures, because we don't have a body there, and ascends in those levels of pleasures higher and higher to infinity, because source of all pleasures we call God, Atov V'Amitiv, the good and the one that gives good. He's the source of all pleasures. And since God is infinite, so that goodness is also infinite. So that's where the soul goes if it doesn't have to come back down. Yeah.
So he